Level 1. You cheat the market. You turn invisible and walk into the Fed meeting room at 2 p.m. on an ordinary Tuesday, sitting down in the corner while 12 people are deciding the fate of the global economy with cold cups of coffee in their hands. Men in suits around a long table arguing about numbers that most of humanity will never understand, but will feel in their rent bills, their loan interest rates, their grocery prices next month. You sit there, invisible, and listen to every word. They decide to raise interest rates by 0.75%. You're smart enough to know what that means for the market. The world will find out in 48 hours. You know right now, in this room, while the spokesperson is still drafting the press release. You leave the meeting room, walk outside, sit down on a nearby bench, and place $2 million on the market going down with completely steady hands, because this isn't a bet. This is withdrawing money from an ATM when you already know the PIN. 48 hours later, the market crashes. $2 million becomes $18 million, and you do nothing in those 48 hours except sleep, eat, and wait. That's the entirety of your work that week. You expand. G7, meeting in Rome, you're there. Apple's closed-door session before announcing quarterly earnings, you're sitting right behind the CEO. OPEC meeting on oil output, you're standing next to the table while the ministers argue. Every meeting is an envelope of money where you already know the amount inside before anyone opens it. Every bet larger than the last because why not? You've never been wrong because you've never guessed. You know, by the end of the year, your account holds $340 million, and that number is still climbing. Profit. Elon Musk. Risk. 0. Level 2. You become a ghost. The idea comes from an evening you turn invisible inside a billionaire's Beverly Hills mansion just to see how the rich live. No other purpose. You walk through each room, look into every corner, and find that this man has everything in the world but is sitting alone in his living room at 11 p.m. watching a television program about the supernatural with the expression of someone searching for something money can't buy. You watch him for a moment. Then, you lift the wine glass off the table. He stares at the glass floating in midair and doesn't breathe for about 3 seconds. You set it back down, walk out, and sit in your car thinking about what just happened. A week later, you come back. This time, more prepared. Lights turning off on their own, doors opening by themselves. Objects moving in ways that have no reasonable explanation except the one explanation he's clearly already willing to believe. After 3 weeks, he starts telling family members the house has a problem, starts praying constantly. You approach him outside a restaurant, dressed slightly unusually, speaking calmly, presenting yourself as a spiritual master, telling him you can sense a heavy negative energy surrounding him from a distance. He looks at you with the expression of someone trying not to show that their heart just skipped. You describe exactly the living room, exactly the wine glass, exactly the television program he was watching that night in a way that has no explanation if you weren't there. He invites you into his Rolls-Royce and begs you to save him, willing to pay $5 million. You decline, lamenting that you were sent by a higher power to rid the world of evil and bring peace, but have never been able to live comfortably yourself, and therefore you want equity in his company. He says $5 million is more than enough to live well. You say nothing and walk out of the room. That night, you push things further. He calls frantically, willing to hand over equity currently worth $15 million. You push to $20 million. He agrees. The risk at this level is simple and very human. You're playing with someone's belief system, and people wealthy enough to pay $20 million for an exorcism are also wealthy enough to hire someone to find out who you are when they realize they've been deceived. Which is why, from the beginning, you have to choose the superstitious over the skeptical. Profit, high. Risk, low. Level 3. You kill people. The U.S. spent over $6 billion across 10 years chasing a single cartel organization in Mexico. Agents died. Informants were burned. Operations failed. The organization still stands. You turn invisible into an internal CIA meeting, sit there for 2 hours listening to them argue about next year's budget, and on your way out, leave an envelope at the front desk with the director's name on it. Inside is a photo of the cartel boss eating dinner at a location the CIA has been searching for over 3 years, along with a note, "Give me $100 million, and I'll do in 1 week what you haven't managed in a decade." They respond within 48 hours. The target lives in a hacienda on the outskirts of Culiacan. 4-meter walls, 3 layers of fingerprint-locked doors, 20 bodyguards on duty around the clock, and a security system you only truly understand once you're already inside. The first layer is the dogs. 4 of them patrolling on a fixed schedule, and their noses don't care whether you're visible or not. The first one picks you up from 15 meters and starts growling at the air. You stand completely still for 3 minutes until the handler drags it away, muttering that the dog is acting up. The second layer is the doors. When you open the second door, the bodyguard at the end of the hallway sees it swing open on its own. He draws his weapon and moves toward it the way well-trained people move toward things they can't explain. Slowly, carefully, finger never leaving the trigger. You press flat against the wall, your breath less than 10 centimeters from his face, and stay still until he passes. The third layer you only discover once you've made it into the bedroom. On a monitor in the corner of the room is a thermal image of the room, and in the middle of that screen is a red human-shaped silhouette standing still. You look at the screen. The red silhouette looks back. That's you. The alarm goes off. You run through the first hallway down the staircase, and just before the exit you hear a machine gun opening up into the hallway behind you. They're not aiming at anything specific, just firing into every corner and letting probability do the rest. A bullet goes through your left arm. Blood starts dripping onto the floor, and blood is not invisible. A bodyguard sees droplets of blood appearing in midair and shouts. The entire hallway turns toward that. You run with your left arm bleeding, the blood tracing your path across the white tile floor like a map, 20 bodyguards chasing that map. You make it through the main gate before they lock it down, out onto the street. Run 3 more blocks before stopping behind a wall. You sit down on the ground. Your left arm is still bleeding into the air. The mission failed. $100 million never hits the account. And somewhere inside that hacienda, a cartel boss just watched thermal camera footage of an invisible person standing in his bedroom and is calling everyone he knows. From today, the entire criminal world knows you exist, and you're sitting behind a dark wall with an arm bleeding into the air, with no idea what comes next. Profit, ultra high. Risk, ultra high.